the grid. What's it feel like out there?
Awesome. But how much do we know what's in his head?
Paddock cut, paddock cut, paddock cut, coming through. Hello there, it is our last commute of the winter to the Circuit de Catalunya. It's actually quite a drive from downtown Barcelona, but the mileage is nothing compared to what's being racked up on track. Between them, the drivers have compiled over 25,000 test miles. That's enough to go all the way to Melbourne and back again. But the big question is, who is leading the way with that Australian Grand Prix fast approaching? Vettel was quickest on the final day, with the third best time of testing. But if he's to add to his 46 poles, he'll have to do so under the new knockout qualifying rules, now confirmed for Melbourne.
I think it's a little bit chaotic if a couple of weeks before the season you start to reinvent certain rules and formats of qualifying, as has been discussed the last couple of weeks. So I'm not a fan, personally not a fan of the qualifying, and I think speaking on behalf of all the drivers, no driver is. We don't get what's wrong with the old qualifying and why to change it. I think it's important that the sport remains a sport, and I can see the excitement for some people with the increase or with the introduction of the element of random or randomness, but I think it's important for the sport to remain a sport, so that in the end the fastest driver comes out on top, to pair it with the strongest team. That has been in the DNA of Formula 1 forever, as far as I can remember, and that's the DNA of the sport, starting from karting. Trying to change that in such an extreme manner, I think, is the wrong way to go, and creates chaos, creates criticism amongst us, the drivers, amongst the fans. So in that regard, it's fair to say that it lacks leadership.
This was the headline image of Mercedes' last track day. A transmission failure stranded Lewis Hamilton. It was the team's first glitch this winter. However, Hamilton's times were again modest, despite his wish, in his words, to put the car on a knife edge. That's testing over. I know you'd rather be racing than testing, but a little transmission problem right at the end there. But can you sum up these couple of days for us, 4 days for us, in terms of how much you've gained, and have you really been able to put the car on the knife edge the way you were wanting to?
Well, firstly, it's been an incredible 2 weeks for the team. They've done an amazing job. It's been the most mileage I think we've ever done before, which has been tiring, but been good. And I'm actually glad that I broke it at the end. It's better to have broken it now and found something in Melbourne. So they'll go and rectify that and improve it for the next time we go out. I pushed the car here and there, but of course when I get to Australia is when I really will get to open it up. So.
And there's a lot of other news bubbling under at the moment. We've just heard in the last hour or so that these new qualifying plans, which I know most of the drivers aren't really in favour of, are to happen. I just wonder, from your point of view as one of the great qualifiers of history, I know we don't compare eras, but should we be meddling around with something like that? Because we like to say Lewis Hamilton did all these poles, other drivers in the past had that, and if it becomes too much of a lottery, we can't really make those comparisons.
Honestly, I don't know. I think what's the most important is how the fans feel about it. All I know as a fan of the sport, when I arrive, even just as a fan, just coming to this track and I'm sitting in the garage, whether it be practice, and you've got one set of tires for the whole session, so you're sitting in the garage and waiting. And I've said it before, but people just waiting around is an issue. People want to see cars going around. People want to see I miss the smoke that used to come out the back of the cars when people's engines blew up. Anyways, going back to qualifying, I think I don't know. I think there's been some good formats and there's been some okay formats. I've generally enjoyed the format of the last few years, so that's why it doesn't make sense to me in my head right now of the changes they've made. But you know, don't knock it till you try it. So we'll get there and see how it goes, and then immediately you'll get comments from the fans whether it's good or not. So.
Just one last thing for me, the cockpit protection. You've made it, your feelings clear, but do you think that's going to happen now? Because the FIA have shown they've got a device. There'll be pressure on them maybe to introduce it. So do you see that coming to pass maybe next season or in the seasons to come?
Liking what I said, I really, really hope not. And if it is going to come in, I hope that we have an option to use it or not, because I will not be using it on my car.
Nico Rosberg was late starting afternoon long runs, although that was unrelated to the earlier problem. Was Mercedes' tyre order for this test revealing? 4 sets of soft and 60 sets of medium tyres. Were they ever out to hog the top of the timesheet? Their engine customers Williams have shown progress, and more could follow. A defining new nose and front wing aero package will bolt on in Australia.
We still need to keep improving the car. We still need to bring more parts to the car, which we're still missing a little bit of parts into the first race, but also after the first race. So the new nose is something that we're waiting to have, plus the new front wing, which is together. So I hope we can use soon, but we need to wait and pass in the crash test. So, but we know that when we use the new nose and the new wing, it will be another improvement in the car, in the direction, in the lines that we want to improve the car. So, but anyway, I think we did a good test. So the car shows to be competitive. How much, we don't know. We will be sure in Australia. But I think it was a good week.
I mean, Rod Nelson, the engineering chief, says you can slug it out, in his words, with Ferrari over the year. Do you sense the team has the ambition and the funds to fight with them throughout the whole campaign?
Yeah, the ambitions for sure. We have the ambitions. We want to fight with them. We want to fight with Mercedes. We want to fight with whatever other teams that is on the track. So, but we know that we need to have our feet on the ground. We know that some teams, they are really strong. Like another one, we know that he won the last championships. So even Ferrari, that it was a team that grew more last year. So yeah, we know it's not easy, but we will try everything we can.
McLaren revealed they failed to run new parts intended for this test, which will, however, come in Melbourne. Jenson Button had over 100 laps, with the fortnight overall reckoned to be a good achievement, according to racing director Eric Boulier. Toro Rosso were second quickest on the final day, with Carlos Sainz using the Ultrasoft rubber. Might they actually start the year ahead of Daniel Kvyat and Daniel Ricciardo? Both teams under the Red Bull banner have officially given the thumbs up to the revamped qualifying. Could we see some spoiling tactics, given you've got that tiny window to go out and get a time or be eliminated, and how much we have to rely on the pit wall as well, rather than your own wits on track?
I mean, we probably can't rely on pit wall too much. There's a big lack of communication this year, so it's going to make it more interesting for sure. I need to fully understand what's happening with qualifying to really give some proper comments. But yeah, I think the whole knockout thing will, as I said, in dry conditions, probably won't change that much. I mean, we should have enough time to put in a lap, but if it starts to rain, then I think it's going to get quite chaotic. And yeah, then trying to fight for track position will be interesting. I think there's going to be a few more emotions on track between drivers. So, I mean, if that spices it up, then why not?
Just finally for me, is yours only a car that can perhaps look at the podium in street circuits where low speed circuits effectively where cornering is important?
I think if we were to race tomorrow, then that's probably where we stand for now. But I mean, yeah, from that I mean I think Mercedes and Ferrari are quicker than us basically on pure pace right now. I think it's evident, but it's expected as well. So if tomorrow we raced in Monaco, maybe we would have a chance, an outside chance of a podium. But yeah, if we were to race here tomorrow, then I think would need a little bit of luck.
Mercedes think they might be fighting with Ferrari. Williams think they could be fighting with Ferrari. And Red Bull think they could be fighting with Williams. So does that mean you could also be fighting with Mercedes if you put all that logic together? I'm joking, of course, but where do you think you do stand in all honesty? What's your best guess as we talk here now?
I think it's quite hard to tell right now exactly where we are. Obviously, you might have some clues, but it's all a little bit of a guessing. So I guess when everyone will go with empty tanks in qualifying and we'll start to really push hard on the limit of the car and so on, then the situation will be more clear. I guess the regulations hasn't been changing so much around. I don't think there will be massive turnaround between teams, but I think that I hope that the package will be tighter and it will allow maybe some strategy gamble and stuff like that to allow, let's say, even if there is some deficit for someone, will allow those teams to be closer and so on.
Ferrari have been top of the timesheet on 5 of the 8 days of testing and have the top 2 times outright. That's hardly dented Mercedes' status as championship favourites. But lap totals reflect a maturing formula. Reliability issues should be rare for the top teams and perhaps more costly to those that suffer them. But let's see when things really get rolling. So, the pre-season fun and games here in Barcelona are finally at an end. It's been short, but it has been sweet for Mercedes and Ferrari in particular. Successful for new American team Haas. They look well set ahead of their debut race, but it's been another troubled winter for McLaren at times. Will they get things right? At least they have a long season in which to do it. That season gets underway on March the 20th in Melbourne, a race exclusively live, remember, on Sky Sports F1. Stay tuned here. Ted Kravitz is coming up next. But for now, from me here in Barcelona, it's good night.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1 Live. On all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.